show, everyone. As all of you know, I made it possible for you to talk about yourself on the radio, and who doesn't like to do that? But to get the word out about what you do to educate everyone. And if you want to get yourself heard on the show, just give us a call here at the station at 602-277-5369. Toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. Give us a call here. We'll get you hooked up with me so you get yourself heard on Networking Arizona. I'm going to go in right with my first guest. He's been on with me for a very long time. I have with me David Fisher, and he is the CEO of Landmark Capital. Welcome back to the show. Whenever you come on, you are so educational with everything that you talk about. Please, and that's your passion, too, to educate people. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely. You know, we believe if you empower somebody with knowledge, they're smart enough to make their own decisions. They don't need pressure or anything, those types of things that most companies out there operate under. So we don't operate under that guidance, but we believe in people. And so because of that, excuse me, you know, we focus on people. We don't, a lot of metal companies, they buy a product and have an inventory, and everybody gets herded down the same direction. That focus is not on a person. So therefore, we have a thing called a financial blueprint. It's one of many of the tools that we are quite different from the rest of the companies across the country. And we're a national country. We're A+ with the Better Business Bureau. We have no complaints. We have a perfect track record. We're accredited members. And I've been doing this for 24 years in the industry. So I know just a little bit about what's going on, I think. But I talk more about economics. And so because of the environment of where we're at, a lot of people choose to roll over their 401k, their IRA, into physical precious metals, gold and silver. And you can do that. A lot of people not aware you can do that and take possession of your metals, hold them in your hands without a tax liability. I wrote a big white paper specifically on that, amongst many of the white papers that I've written. So, and it's cost effective. The competitors that do this charge somewhere between $9.95 to $19.95 in the legal fees to set up the LLC. I've worked with a corporate lawyer here in Phoenix, Arizona. That's been doing these for 5 years, and I've ran thousands of them through his law firm, and he only charges $385.
It's
out
amazing.
of state, $350 in state.
Now, people can call you direct. You like them to go right to your office to call. You do free consultations, and you can give them all of this information, because one of the things, you're not here to scare anyone in any way, shape, or form. It's all about just your knowledge of what you've put together and what you've found, and you have read, and you've done this for a long time now.
You know, this would be kind of like, you know, let's look at what's going on right now with North Korea and our country. Am I scared about that? No, but I'm really concerned. So we shouldn't be scared at facts. We should be concerned at what's going on and the things that will affect our money, either positively or negatively, and we need to be aware of them. And then out of that awareness, we might be concerned. It might cause us to feel a little bit scared. That's normal. It's a reaction. It's an emotion. There's nothing wrong with that emotion. But no, we don't use scare tactics. No, we use factual, documented information from the Federal Reserve, the government website, Reuters, Fox News. All of it's documented. And sometimes that causes us to be concerned, and we've helped out lots of people out there being concerned. And, you know, look what's going on in the market today. Gold is up 2 times the amount the Dow is year to date at 9.9%. The Dow is up 3.9%. Silver is up almost 14%, 13.8%. So I said at the beginning of your program in January that we're going to have a bull market in stocks and metals at the same time, and I explained why that would happen. And clearly it's been a bumpy ride, like I said it will be. We're going to still have a lot of bumps along the way this year. In fact, more are coming than what we've already experienced, unfortunately. Again, I'm not trying to scare you. It's just the environment. When you have change, there's creates some uncertainty, and some changes are really good, but it does create uncertainty.
David, you also have on the radio all over, so I also want to get that out too, please.
I'm on national radio on several networks, about 700, almost close to 800 now stations hear my voice, covering around 2.5, maybe now 3 million people hear me every week, talk about exactly what I'm going to share with you today in the Valley here.
Now, you can call them direct. Their phone number is 602-287-9200. You can also check them out on their website. It's landmarkgold.com. Okay, so you talked a little bit about the markets. What's going on here?
You know, this is not all about gold, but a lot of things lead into gold. And what I've seen a change here recently, and most of the time, Carol, financial newsletters don't talk highly about gold. If they bring up the subject, they usually talk negatively of gold and why it's going to go down and how you should not invest in it. And that's typically the thing that you would read in all the newsletters that I read, and I read a lot of them. I'm seeing a change, though. I'm now starting to see a change in these financial newsletters it's undeniable. I mean, look what's going on. I just gave you the percentages.
Exactly.
So the newsletters are starting to change now and saying it's a good time to put some gold or silver in your portfolio. Mm-hmm. A year ago, they were so anti-gold and silver. Even 3 months ago, they were that way. And now they're speaking positive. In fact, the reports are coming out like UBS is saying the average price for gold, the what you call the ceiling or the floor for gold will be $1,300. We're at $1,276 right now, so we're not far away. We could be there by the end of this week, literally, with what's happening. But they're saying it could be as high as $1,500 this year. So there's another report that in fact, I brought it with me. Check this out. It shows the graph. I know the radio listeners can't see it, but it's saying a survey from Wall Street, 76% of the Wall Street people are saying pro-gold, are saying gold should be in your portfolio. That's pretty phenomenal.
And I think for you, this is another thing that I want to get out. We've said it before. You're not here to tell them that you should put all your money in one area. This is not about that in any way, shape, or form.
No, if you follow the plan that I laid out for years and years, put a portion of money in cash, portion of money stocks, bonds, real estate, and also precious metals, and you diversified amongst those categories. When we had the 2008, and by the way, I'm going to share something that's going to solidify more about 2008 coming up, unfortunately. But when we had the 2008, if you had followed that plan, not all your eggs were in the basket of stocks, and stocks got clobbered 45%. Real estate took about the same hit. Cash didn't do anything, but it was there for you in the crisis when things pulled back, and gold went up 76% the first year and a multi-year run after that. So it's very important to diversify. Precious metals, you're not going to go to the grocery store with them. You're going to use it as a hedge against inflation, and we're going to have inflation. The Fed is admitting it very openly and consistently, and they've already started this process. It is a hedge against that, and that's why gold is the number one and silver number one asset classes outperforming paper, because we are moving into an inflationary environment.
So what do you think is going to happen by the end of the year?
In the stock market, I think we're going to have a minor correction. We're going to have some major problems in the government by the end of the year, and I think we're going to be in I don't want to call it a war, but there's going to be things that will happen where I think it's going to escalate, unfortunately, a lot more than it is now. Because if you look at President Trump, he's a type A personality. In one area of a type A personality, he doesn't like a person, and I'm not speaking bad about him, I voted for him, okay? He doesn't like a person that's going to one-up him. I mean, that's very clear with his Twitter account, okay? So
I'm not going to say a word to that.
Yeah, I'm not demeaning him. I'm just saying, let's analyze. Every president has his own personality, and this is this president's personality. Well, when you look at the people that want to fight against, the president, like the Korean leader, South Korea leader, or North Korea, excuse me, and when you look at Russia, they have major type A personalities too. So we have a clash of the titans, I call it, and it's going to be king of the hill. And that's what there's now this rhetoric of retaliation. Now, they can't compete with us on a combative level. We know it. They really know it. But that doesn't mean they're not going to spout off. And they might do something different, like on a financial level. And that's where the key is. Because America can't come down, be brought down in this environment, in our life as it is right now, military-wise. But it can be affected financially.
We're going to go to a break, and when we come back, this is about taking possession and taking control of your money.
Absolutely.
And this is what we want you to do. And to listen to all of this, it's informational. Their phone number direct, it's 602-287-9200. It's landmarkgold.com.
But traded it all if I cave in.
So welcome back. And we're talking with David Fisher. He's the CEO of Landmark Capital. David, the last time you came on, you did a really cool giveaway. We're going to be doing that again. What was that?
Well, it's for callers who initiate a trade or IRA paperwork with our company, Landmark Capital, by April 30th of this year, 2017. And that trade would be $25,000 of a purchase or more. And we give you some time to look over the information, get your questions, answers, things like that. So once you do that, not only will you receive your metals, but in addition to that shipment, 10 free silver peace dollars as a added incentive to protect and grow your money, and as a thank you from our company in choosing us.
So you can call them direct. He does free consultations. There's always somebody there that can help you. And you can talk about all of this stuff. And he can substantiate everything by getting the white paper, as well as if you want to find out how to take possession of your metals and have them in hand too. So you can call direct at 602-287-9200. It's landmarkgold.com. So you said that banks are capitalized enough for the next crisis and when it happens. So what's going to happen then if they're saying that they are too big to fail? What does that mean, that they're too big? That's not true, because you told us there were some banks in Europe that collapsed practically.
There's been lots of banks that have gone out of business.
Right.
There's no such thing as
How do they say that they're too big to fail?
Well, here's what's happened is we've J.P. Morgan. They've become very big. And the CEO, Jamie Dimon, recently said in the news last week that we're fully capitalized. We got plenty of money. And we're too big. This whole idea of too big to fail, because we're so big. They're the biggest bank, maybe in the world, but certainly in the United States, that they can't fail. Well, Bear Stearns, they said the same thing about Bear Stearns, and Lehman Brothers was almost in that group, and they did fail. So this whole idea is nonsense, saying that a bank can't fail because it's too big. And so as a result of that, now banks have gotten more money in their system, in their accounts today than they had in 2008. I'll grant them that. And that's pretty, everybody who studies the banking industry fully agrees with that. But that doesn't mean they're immune from the next financial calamity. Because here's why. There's a guy who responded to Jamie Dimon, the CEO of J.P. Morgan, that holds a lot of credibility. His name is Neil Kashkari. Now, people are saying, well, who's that? He sounds like a foreigner. No, he's an American citizen. He's very well respected. He's the president of the Federal Reserve of the Minneapolis branch. So he's one of the handful of people who are in the know on how the banking system works. I'm going to go a step further, and you're going to be very impressed with his credentials. When the 2008 meltdown happened, he was the right-hand man to Henry Paulson, who was the Secretary of Treasury.
Wow.
He was the main person involved in creating the TARP program, which is helping people get back to where they were before this all happened. So he has a lot of respect, and he's on the inside, and he knows. He responded to this, banks have enough money. What he said in Fox News and CNBC, not a offshoot news media, but mainstream news, he says that U.S. taxpayers will have to bail out the nation's biggest banks when the next crisis hits. He's saying there is a 70% chance there will be a crisis happening requiring a taxpayer bailout. Now, doesn't this exactly go with exactly what I've been saying all along?
As you were talking the whole time, I kept on saying, yeah, they have enough money because they have our money.
You're right.
Right?
You're exactly right. So he said, he also went on to say that this whole idea of too big to fail is insane. The banks need to double. He says the banks need to double their cash holdings, and then they will be close to being too big to be failing, because in the next financial calamity, the amount of money that banks have currently is not even close to the amount of money to bail themselves out. That's why the taxpayer is going to be the entity that will bail them out, and this is what we call a bail-in, which is what I wrote a big white paper on. So once again, what I've been saying for the last year and a half is probably from the most reliable source on the inside, the president of the Minneapolis Federal Reserve calling out banks, and I would think he would say the opposite, but that tells you the statue of integrity this man has, that he's willing to say, no, we're not fully capitalized, and we will have a problem, and this is going to go on the taxpayers' back. So this is why it's very important why people get educated. Just like saying what's going on, like this airplane situation that went on. Isn't that crazy? And people are saying, well, they can't legally do that. Well, unfortunately, that's what you signed up for when you bought a ticket. I don't condone the behavior of the police nor the behavior of the airlines, but that's what the small print says. We passed a law that has huge big print in it and been talked about. It's called the Dodd-Frank Act. That is the law that changed the legal ownership of our money. So just saying that I didn't know about the law doesn't mean that it's not there, but it is there. And we might be surprised someday that just as they were able to legally, it doesn't look like it's morally right, but they were legally able to yank the passenger off the airplane, they are legally able to yank our money out of our account.
And it's happened in, like, what other
9 countries. 8 of the 9 are in Europe. The 9th one is Argentina, where they went in to seize their citizens' bank accounts, pensions, or retirements. They gave them a physical piece of paper in return, so it didn't cause upheaval and revolting. Well, it did in Greece because they did it 3 times, and I think we would revolt too if it happened in America 3 times. But the first time when it was done in all the countries, there was no rioting. There was no upheaval. There was no disorder because the citizens got from their country either a bank note in a failing bank in a failing country like Cyprus, or they got a bond like in Poland as a payback for the funds that the Polish government seized from their citizens and their pensions. Our countries learned from this, and they set up very similar, identical laws as the blueprint. I've been asked many times on the radio and off the radio from people who talk to me about this, who are concerned about their money. Well, why would they even do such a thing? They have to have a backstop. They have to have a safety valve. That's why if you go to the national debt clock, it's a government website. It's blank nationaldebtclock.gov. Okay, it says in there's different charts, and you'll see it says the amount you owe.
Anybody can go up there and look at that right now?
It's online. Go Google it.
Wow.
Okay.
That's amazing.
It all ties in, but you got to put the pieces of the puzzle again to see the big picture. And that's what this report that I put together called The Coming Bail-In, you'll start to read that. If they call my office, you'll be amazed at all the things, the working pieces that have been put together where they've set this up. Do I know that they're going to do this or not? No, but here's what I do know. In all the 9 countries that have already done this, we've done more things in preparation for a bail-in in our country than all the other 9 combined. And this is not the president that would do this. This is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is an entity in and of itself that cannot be controlled, not even by the president.
Well, this is all the more reason why you need to listen to this information. It's informational for you, and it gives you power, and that's what he wants. He's arming you with power so that you can take control of your money, and by being able to buy gold and actually taking possession of it, and so you're safe, right?
Exactly. A lot of people say, well, where am I going? I can't go to the grocery store with my gold. No, and you can't go to the grocery store with your stock either. But you use stocks to grow your money. And now, since gold is outperforming stocks at 2-to-1, a little bit more, you can use your gold to not only protect your money, which stocks can't from a bail-in, but gold can from a bail-in. And stocks can't from inflation, but gold can from inflation. And it also can diversify your portfolio as another vehicle to cause your portfolio to go up in value.
So you can call his office. They do free consultations. You can get all this information there. It's 602-287-9200. You can check him out on his website. It's landmarkgold.com. We have a minute. You want to mention this again just before we go?
Yeah, for those callers who initiate a trade with our company, Landmark Capital, and they either fill out paperwork to do a transfer or roll over their 401k or or IRA, and they do this by April 30th. We'll give them some time this year to read the information, get their questions answered by a representative. And they purchase $25,000 or more. They're going to get not only their medals in their shipment, but 10 free silver peace dollars as a thank you for working with our company and an added incentive.
Well, we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit further on this. And it's informational. You go and call there and just get the information and read on it. It's 602-287-9200. Check them out on the website. It's landmarkgold.com, or call them at 602-287-9200.
If I traded it all, if I gave it all.
So welcome back. And we are talking with David Fisher. He's the CEO of Landmark Capital. And I'm asking you, because we've been talking at the break, it's interesting, we even have somebody here from a country that had that bail-in done like 20 years ago, as she was saying. Why would the government have to do a bail-in in the first place? Why do they need to do that?
You know, there's lots of countries that have done bail-ins over our lifetime. It's become a thing of the norm now, though, as a relief valve. Countries have been moving towards more spending and having a higher debt level. So how do you take care of your debt?
I don't know how. I mean, what do you do?
Well, we have a thing. You start selling a bond as
We're
a country.
supposed to pay them.
Well, think with me here. There's different ways to take care of your country's debt. Our $20 trillion in debt is it's not manageable. If it was manageable, it'd be going down.
Right.
It's going up. It's unmanageable.
Like they say, if I had the money, you wouldn't have to call me.
Yeah, exactly. So clearly we have to, first of all, admit we have a problem, and we have a problem, but unfortunately it's such a big problem, nobody really has a way of fixing it. But there's some ways to fix your debt, and that is create more debt, hope that enough people will buy this brand new debt, and eventually you try to get out of debt by creating more debt. Sounds crazy. Sometimes it works, but not when you're at 106%, 107%, which is what our country is, debt to income, or debt to GDP. It worked under Reagan when it was 35%. It won't work now. That's what we're trying, though, evidenced by Steve Mnuchin, the new Secretary of Treasury, saying, let's create a new note, not a 20-year Treasury, let's create a 50-year Treasury and a 100-year Treasury, because those aren't working, that the 20, the 10, and the 5. So that idea is not going to work, but that is the idea. The other idea is default. Trump alluded that just default on the debt and negotiate it down. That's a default. That would wreak havoc on our whole financial system in America. We would lose all credibility. It would be the worst thing to do, but that is an option too. Raising interest rates and inflate your way out of the problem is the normal way most countries do this. It takes people that believe inflation is coming should also have gold in their portfolio and silver, because that's the only way you can protect. I don't want to sound like all you only can buy my product. I'm not meaning it that way. There's nothing else unless you're very, very good on a technical level in certain financial tools in the stock market, okay? But most people aren't in that category, okay? So the other way, the simple way, is just buy some gold and silver.
It makes sense.
Yeah,
no matter what, it makes
does.
sense.
So we had inflation in the 70s where interest rates went double digits. The debt was out of control. We couldn't manage it. And so they started inflating our way out of it by raising rates to devalue the currency to pay down the debt with devalued dollars. It worked. Then we went on a spending spree after that. It's like, I got out of debt, and then what happens? You feel so comfortable, and then the person starts spending more.
They didn't learn their lesson.
They didn't learn the lesson, and it gets worse. It's like the person that loses weight, and they go on this big, weird diet, and then they get off the diet, and they gain more than they did before. And I'm not, being bad about diets or anything like that. I just went on one a while ago. So, but the inflation is the number tool for getting this under control. There's a new tool that's been created. It's called Seize the Citizens' Money, a bail-in. It was tested in a laboratory experience on a computer. And it worked. And so the International Monetary Fund put together big reports on this, and they said, this is what you need to do. In fact, they put a big one out after 6 countries already did this and said, here's what the facts are. It worked. It's called Taxing Times. It's a 107-page report. I've read it 6 times. And on page 49, it talks about in detail that America needs to do this. Otherwise, you're going to be forced to either do massive inflation or you're going to be forced to do this when it's not a great environment to do this in. But if you do it now ahead of time and in a planned way, and you only have to do it once, and you'll get paid, the citizens will get paid in return, and it will work. This is the model that America has picked up. And this is where we're running with it. And this is why they pass these laws, because we have to face our debt. It just can't keep growing. And this is why at this level in December of last year, the last report that came out, the U.S. Treasury reported that we had the biggest sell-off of U.S. Treasuries in the history of our country in 1 month. The chart's been going up like a hockey stick since 2011, and it was at $80.3 billion. We need $65 to $70 billion a month of foreigners to buy our asset because we overspend. It's called a budget deficit. So we spend somewhere around $65 to $70 billion more a month, Carol, than what we take in. So how do we fix that? By selling an asset called a treasury. Unfortunately, foreigners, the number one buyers, are not buying the treasuries. They're selling them. They're going the other direction. The tide went out and that's coming back in. So they're selling it back to us. We got to buy it. So now that we're not getting enough people to buy it, we got to buy back what we already sold. So we're in this environment. It's the financial backbone of our country. This is why the Federal Reserve is trying to get rid of their $4.5 trillion on the Fed balance sheet, and why they're coming out now and saying we're going to have a big problem. There was a big survey and a big report that was done in 2012 that says the Fed has not figured out. I got it right here in the Wall Street Journal. I pulled it out from the archives. The Fed has not figured out back in 2012, and they still haven't figured out today. Here we are, 5 years later. They still have no mechanism to pull back the $4.5 trillion that's on their balance sheet. And $3.5 trillion of that $4.5 trillion is Treasury bills. They're losing money. The Fed is losing money right now. They're leveraged at 77 to 1. They can't be the entity that bails us out. And this is why Neil Kashkari is saying what he's saying. It's going to be on the citizens' back this time. It's not going to be the government anymore. It's not going to be the Federal Reserve anymore. It is now the new entity that will hold the bag at the end of the day.
Tell them quickly again, because it's been a while since you said it, since you first came on, about what your company does.
People who are concerned, and this resonates, when they get some facts, we help them either buy gold or silver over the counter, and we develop a strategy for that, or they can roll over their 401k or IRA and take physical possession of their gold and silver in their hands without a tax liability. And we help them do that. And most companies who don't know how to do that, and if you're listening to me and you've already done this, and your metal is a third-party depository, I've helped so many people, Carol, with that. I know we don't have time for a story right now, but I've helped people so much with just that alone. Oh, we do have time for a story? Mm-hmm. Okay, just recently, because what happens when people learn that, hey, their metals are in a depository, and they start to panic. Well, wait a second, I bought metals because I don't want to go through any of this turmoil. And then they realize that they learn about this bail-in, and then they realize all the government has to do is make 2 phone calls, one to Brinks in Utah, one to Delaware Depository in Wilmington, Delaware, and the gold and silver is locked up. Simple as that. But they bought gold and silver to protect them from all this, but they never took possession because they didn't know how to. I can help those people. And we don't have time to go in depth on how I do it, but if they call my company, I'm working on one right now. They worked with another company within the Valley, I know very well. Their metals are in Delaware, And we're in the process of getting 100% control over their money so that if they do this, their money is untouchable. And they're in even a better product, too.
To me, I would want to be in possession of my product.
He who owns the gold makes the rules. And when you own it, you hold it. You don't really own it if it's somewhere in another state, in a depository that's controlled by a national government and their regulations. So you're putting some insulation against all these regulations that have been put there to, quote, help us. They're actually hurdles to hurt us.
Well, I'll tell you something. I feel whenever you come on, I learn more and more, and I lean more and more towards, why doesn't everybody just do this?
There's a lot of people that do this. We help so many people, and there's a big sigh of relief that when they get their medals in their hands, they feel such a great peace about this.
You could call them. They do free consultations. Their phone number is 602-287-9200. Get all the information, and then check them out at landmarkgold.com.